And good evening, everyone. We are here on a Thursday evening. This was a special request by Robert Evans to get this information out to everyone as quickly as possible. This is going to probably be a shocker for most of you. I take that back. It's not going to be a shocker for most of you. Anyone who is new to this audience and to this broadcast will probably be a little shocking and frightening, but it's not about fear. Remember this. It's not about fear. It is about information, and it's about awakening. Robert Evans is our guest for this evening, and he has some pretty intense information that he needed to get out as quickly as possible because Robert is basically telling us that, the Planet X system, the binary system, our twin solar system, is in our inner solar system, more or less. And he's going to bring up some pretty compelling evidence this evening that's going to point this out. There's photographs, and I'm going to be posting them in the chat, and you'll be able to take those from the chat to your email and look at this and follow along as he's talking. Well, and we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Wonderful music, as always, provided by your regular guest, Bad Betty, and of course, I'm always happy to fill in for your wonderful host. I actually feel honored to do it for her. She's wonderful. Listen to her show. Love her guests, and I love all of you guys, by the way. But we're doing this special show tonight because Bob Evans has some incredible and very, urgent information that everybody needs to listen to. Bob Evans, of course, all of you listen to the show. Who are regular guests here, is a Planet X researcher who has been dealing with this for a very long time. You know what? I've been dealing with this for a while myself, but he is an avid researcher, and he digs up just information that is extraordinary, and he has some extraordinary and dire information to bring to us this evening. So without further ado, I want to welcome Bob Evans. Bob, welcome to the show. And I know you really needed to get this information out quickly because you feel that it's very urgent at this point. Welcome to the show, my friend.
And I am honored to be back on your show with you and with Bad Baby about this. We've all been talking about the planet Nibiru, where is it, what's been leaked, all this stuff since 2007. And a lot of listeners, a lot of your other people around me say this is all nothing but BS. We can't see it in our skies. No one's warning us. The newspapers aren't warning. The news media is not warning us. You'd think we'd get stuff from the president or whomever to warn all of us.
Well, you know what they've been doing, Bob. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you know what they've been doing? What they've been distracting us with all the nonsense, right? The Russia Gate and the North Korea nonsense. It's all distractions to keep us away from the truth of what's really happening. Please continue. I'm sorry.
It goes far. That's right. It goes far beyond that, my friend. You see, back in 1954, President Eisenhower, with the Bishop of Los Angeles, Francis McIntyre, they met at what used to be called Muroc Army Airfield, now Edwards Air Force Base.
Right.
They met with 3 ET races, and everyone has denied it. It did never happen. A hand-picked team of Western scientists were there. Randolph Hearst was there with his own people. And they met with what was then called the Greys. I don't know whether it's the small Greys or large Greys. They met with a reptilian-looking race. And they met with an interdimensional race called the Etherians. Now, all of this, after everyone was sworn to secrecy, was put down by a man that was part of Randolph Hearst's team, Gerald Light. And let me pull this up real quick. My kitty cat's trying to sit in front of let's see, where is he? What was that? Mothership it's in this whole thing I've got in front of me, which I think I put too much. There he is. Okay. Everyone was sworn to secrecy during this thing, but Gerald Light wrote to a friend of his, Mr. Meade Lane, down in San Diego. And he says, "My dear friend, I just returned from Murrock. The report is true, devastatingly true. I met with Journey and Company of Franklin Allen of Hearst Papers and Edward Norris of Brookings Institutes." I'm not going to try and read this whole thing here, but he said that they saw flying saucers. He used a different term, other plane aeroforms. Over the 2 days, he saw 5 separate and distinct types of aircraft being studied and handled by our Air Force officials with the assistance and permission of the Ethereans. It has finally happened, and by that he meant first contact. President Eisenhower, as you already know, was spirited over to Murrock one night during his visit to Palm Springs, and it is my conviction that he will ignore the terrific conflict between the various authorities. President Truman started MJ-12, okay?
Right.
A high-ranking group of people, and they were in charge of all the secrecy. President Eisenhower had his hands tied by MJ-12. He was going to go public and tell everyone about this.
Right.
Now, Gerald Light says very, very specifically here that this hand-picked team of Western scientists all had their jaws on the floor when they saw a demonstration done, a massive block of solid something dematerialized right in front of their eyes, not once but twice. He used the term dematerialization, which was not used until 1965 with Star Trek.
Interesting.
Now,
I didn't know that, by the way. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Now, all of your listeners can go to my webpage called Starships Around the Sun. Click on it. The first page shows this page. Now, Gerald Light, he died at some point. I don't know all the information about this. His wife went through all of his letters and stuff, and she found this letter. This letter was debunked for years as being nothing but BS. Now it's all coming into light. Okay, all of these people, including Bishop McIntyre, were sworn to silence. Bishop McIntyre refused. He left the area on his way heading across the United States towards Rome. His plane had to land at one point to refuel. 2 men in black forced their way onto the plane and told the bishop he has to remain silent, even to God. He refused, and his backup bodyguards, probably from Rome, forced the men in black off the plane. Bishop McIntyre went to Rome and talked to Pope Pius XII and told him everything.
Right. And I'm very familiar with that story, Robert, because that's been circulating for quite a while. So,
okay.
And I think that was even disseminated on the Art Bell show. I think that's when it first came out, but I can't be absolutely positive on that.
Now, the Art Bell show talked the main show I know about is where after Pope John Paul II died, his right-hand man, I forget his name, he said a huge comet was coming in. And that's as far as he would go in detail.
Right.
Now, early 1955, Eisenhower went to Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico. The plane landed and stopped at the end of the runway.
Now, that's when he made Robert, just to clarify this, that's when Eisenhower made the excuse that he had a dental emergency, right? And
that
he was going to see a dentist.
1954.
Okay.
That was 1954. This meeting at Holloman Air Force Base was already approved. So his plane landed, stopped at the end of the runway. He ordered everything to be shut down, including the early versions of the Doppler radar systems, very clearly. You see, the Doppler radar system somehow shot down 3 alien craft over Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. This was all detailed by Colonel Philip Corso in his book, The Day After Roswell, where one of the craft was caught by the Army. The Army picked up all 3. One of the craft had 2 survivors. One alien was shot dead as he tried to run for escaping. The other alien was taken in. He was heavily wounded. And that's where all the stuff going from Roswell over came after. This alien allowed them to use the communications device on the ship, and that's possibly where the movie E.T. Phone Home came from. Okay.
Right.
Eisenhower was seen leaving his airplane. Several minutes after, 2 flying saucers arrived. One landed, one stayed hovering.
Right.
He went into the craft, was in it for almost an hour. Supposedly, the aliens in the craft were what we used to call the Nordic ones. Tall, human-like beings with blonde or yellow hair and blue eyes, between 7 to 9 feet tall. Supposedly, they told Eisenhower that the alien races he met the year before could not be trusted. Supposedly, Eisenhower tried to have a treaty with these Nordic ones for advanced technology, as he almost did with the earlier group. The Nordic ones turned him down, supposedly telling him that they didn't want us to have advanced technology because we would destroy ourselves, as they almost did thousands of years before, and that in the process they would probably damage their bases on their moon. Their moon. This angered Eisenhower.
Right.
After he got out of the ship, the flying saucer lifted off and flew at treetop level off the base, but it picked on one man on a power pole, and he had to jump for his life.
Wow.
Now, this was all reported by one of my friends on YouTube. I can't remember his name right now. My brain's going blank here. Okay.
Okay. Just relax.
Eisenhower, Eisenhower got back to the White House. He demanded that no one in the White House ever mention aliens or flying saucers again, and he turned everything over to MJ-12. He was later heard that he never wanted to do that, but he had no choice. And he was the first president to have a TV broadcast when he was leaving office. And he technically tried to warn all the people to never trust the military stuff again.
Right, that's when he was talking about the military-industrial complex and how it was exactly how it was so evasive and elusive in the sense that it already happened. He had lost control of it, and I think Robert, and this is my opinion. You can correct me if I'm wrong, or you can acknowledge me if I'm right. But I think he was trying to allude to the fact that we had already met and established some sort of, reference point or some kind of understanding with our alien friends above.
Exactly.
Without being too specific.
Exactly. Okay? Colonel Philip Corso describes very clearly in his book, The Day After Roswell, what they found in the ships. The ships had no control surfaces inside, and they had no areas for food preparation or food storage. So they were nothing more than shuttlecraft coming down from something much larger.
Right, intermediary crafts land to deal with to go back and forth from Earth to the mothership. Exactly, makes sense to me.
Exactly. Now they found these big black things on their eyes. That was turned over for reverse engineering to several different corporations. That's where infrared technology came from. They found laser-like objects inside the ship. Supposedly that's where high-powered lasers came from. Now, one of the objects they found in the ship, they didn't understand at first, this big goldish ring, which normally went on the top of the ET of the Gray's head. Interesting point here. Hollywood, years ago, came out with a movie, Firefox. With
I remember going to that movie, Robert. I think I was 16 years old when that came out, and I watched it more than once, and I was fascinated with the technology. And I thought it was just Hollywood magic, but now come to find out that it really wasn't Hollywood magic. That was something that was really real, just reproduced by Hollywood to give us that illusion, right? But the fact of the matter, it was really real.
The Russians had also shot down several of these craft, and they found the same things. Now that big disc that went on top of their heads, it only works with what we call the primal brain. Not your main brain, but the primal brain, which is just below. And that's how they controlled their ships.
Right.
And that's how the Russian aircraft, the Firefox, the plane that was accidentally loaned from, I think, China over to Japan by a Russian pilot. The F-25, I think it's called. So the Russians knew about this technology. We know about this technology. And Hollywood has been playing games. Okay, let's take this thing even further back. The Colburn, an ancient book which dates back to the Exodus, which has been firmly dated now to 1615, 1613 BC. An ancient Egyptian scribe. Ancient Egypt, not everyone could speak or write.
Right.
The higher powers, they had scribes which were highly trained in reading and writing to tell the people what they wanted them to know. This scribe's name was Ipuwer, Ipuwer. He completely detailed the entire account of the Exodus from an Egyptian point of view.
And I just wanted to point this out, Robert. The exact timing that you're talking about, right around 1600, in that time frame, BC, puts us right around 3,600 years. Just so everybody knows, to present time. Exactly. Now, Ipuwer knew from ancient Egyptian history, which has not been fully dated and put on any book or anything, that the destroyer was in their skies again. You see, the planet Nibiru has been known by many ancient names. The destroyer was mostly what is called in ancient Egypt. The Red Kachina is the name the Hopi people call it. Well, there was also, but before the Red Kachina, in the Hopi prophecy, it would be the Blue Kachina and the Red Kachina. And I have seen compelling evidence, Robert, that I've already seen. And this is my perspective alone. You can, you can take it or look at it any way you want. But I've seen photographs of this Blue Kachina, and now I'm seeing what appears to be this reddish, reddish Kachina, which has
ancient
wings.
Hopi prophecy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just saying that I've seen the Blue Kachina. I think it's already here and has passed, and now we're seeing the Red Kachina.
The Hopi ancient prophecies, they said the third Hopi world ended by water.
Right, exactly.
That was Noah's flood, some 12,900 plus minus years ago. That account has been put to that date by so many archaeologists have been trying to date this stuff for a long time. The Hopi prophecy said that, yes, the third Hopi world ended by water, but the Earth's rotation had been reversed by it. How do they know that? See, I've had to research the holy heck out of this stuff. When my wife and I first started putting this on Facebook, we had one debunker after another. So I finally said, to hell with this. And I wanted to research the holy hell out of it. That way I could show them exactly, this book says this book says that. So that led me from the Colburn, which has all these ancient accounts in there, to Worlds in Collision by Immanuel Velikovsky, Zachariah Sitchin with the Lost Book of Enki, which even tells more.
Okay, Robert, I don't mean to stop you because, look, we're starting to get a bunch of questions here in the chat already. Starting with guest 9, it says, hello. Please ask Robert about the telescopic images from the A.J. Lujan, I think that's the way it's pronounced, Luan, and the Teresa Caldwell photographs.
Those are all interesting. Teresa Caldwell has gone out of her way to filter these photographs showing that they're real. They're not fakeries, they're not photoshopped. They're all showing real objects.
Okay.
One of the first really good photographs that you have or should have right now, was caught in the skies over Alberta, Canada, about 2 weeks ago now. And here's our sun, and here's this big red object just to the left of our sun.
In front of the sun, is that the photo I'm looking at right now, Robert?
I'm not sure. I did send a bunch of
I got them
photographs.
all. Yeah, I got them all through email, and I'm just going down the, the page as you're talking about
Sure.
this, because I'm seeing this. I see our sun, and then I see this huge red object slightly above into the. Well, I guess if I'm facing it the same way the photograph is facing me, it would be to my right. If I'm facing the photograph, it would be to my left. So I think we're looking at the same photograph, which is extraordinary, by the way.
We might, yes. You see, after Eisenhower met with these different groups, in 1980.
Wait a minute. Eisenhower met with these groups in 1980?
No, sorry, I'm mixing this stuff up here.
That's okay.
Eisenhower met with them in 1954.
There you go.
1955. Okay. He told something to the new incoming President Kennedy. Now, the BBC did a complete research on President Kennedy and the aliens about 30 years ago. And through all the research that they pulled, all the documents, they pulled up 2 letters from President Kennedy's desk.
Right.
In 1963. And he was demanding all this information to be on his desk before he got back from Dallas.
Right.
He didn't come back from Dallas.
We know that.
Okay.
The Bruder film proved that, didn't it?
Now, yes, exactly. Now, Ronald Reagan, at some point, went before the UN, I think 2 or 3 times, and he said, if we ever knew that there was another alien race out there, everything would fall flat on this planet. Religions would be almost non-existent. You wouldn't be called English, Indian, Chinese, Russian, or American. They'd all be one humanity, Earthlings.
Well, you know what, Robert? I got to interject here something. This was the thought process of the agenda of the elite, because I know, and you know, and certainly everybody who's grew up in that era, because I was born in '66. Okay, I don't think any of us would have any problem, being part or being introduced to another race and being part of a larger galactic community. It is the manipulative practices of the deep state or the New World Order, call them what you will, who want to maintain the control. So they manipulated the contact back in '47. They controlled that contact information, gained the technology and knowledge through these aliens, kept it to themselves, have only interjected a small amount of technology called computers, smartphones, and so on and so forth, and kept the very best technology for themselves to maintain control over the human population, which is the most incredible aphrodisiac that can be held by anybody, which is power. And I'm sorry to meet you, but that's exactly how I feel about it. I think everybody sees it the same way. That's just my thought, Robert.
Okay, 1979. The Georgia Guidestones were created.
By Mr. Christensen.
No, R.C. Christian is the name that's been given or leaked.
Right.
As the person who paid for it. But no one's been able to find out who that person is. And the person who built this thing has kept his mouth shut all these years. On these 3 huge granite pieces in almost every known language. We have a basic 10 commandments. And one of the commandments says very clearly, never let the population go above 500 million again.
That's right.
That calls for a depopulation of almost 95%.
That's right.
Period.
That's right.
Okay.
And by the way, there's this website. I don't know if you're familiar with Robert, but it's called Deagle website. I guess it's been taken down, but they show that the population, I think, in 2025 or 2030, from 350 million, that the population in the United States, and I don't know how they came out to these figures, comes out to, like, I think 62 million total population in the United States. Now, when you say to yourself, okay, how is that possible? The only answer could be a total worldwide destructive force that would eliminate 90% of the population of the world.
Okay. Now, here is being told by Pope John Paul II in 1980. This has been researched very carefully. This is in his own words when he went to a German town, and I can't pronounce the name correctly. I'm going to try to.
Well, we won't fault you for it. Don't worry about it.
Okay. This is called Pope John Paul II in Fulda, Fulda, Germany, 1980. There was a large group of German Catholics, including one or two reporters, and they kept pestering the Pope. Why wasn't the third secret of Fatima released in 1960 as
and
one
I've
of the sisters?
Yeah.
As the original sister, who was a nun at that time, requested.
That's right. I was just going to say that.
The Holy Father was asked. Yeah, sorry. The Holy Father was asked.
Yeah, go ahead, Robert. I was just agreeing with you that Lucia was the one who really was given the prophecy, whether it was the Holy Mother or an apparition of the Holy Mother or just an alien, presenting itself as the Holy Mother. So it would be something she could recognize and given this prophecy, and then of course the papacy took and ran off with that and said, no, this is too dangerous, we can't tell anybody. And I was just saying I exactly agree with that exact statement, that it was the prophecy of the binary system coming in to cause this destruction. Please go ahead.
Okay. Now this is the third secret, not the second or the first. Given the seriousness of the contents, my predecessors in the Petrine office diplomatically preferred to postpone publication so as not to encourage the world power of communists to make certain moves, like coups and God knows whatever. On the other hand, it should be sufficient for all Christians to know this. If there is a message in which it is written that the oceans will flood whole areas of the earth, and that from one moment to the next millions of people will perish, truly the publication of such a message is no longer something to be so much desired.
Right.
Many wish to know simply from curiosity and a taste for the sensational, but they forget that knowledge also implies responsibility. They only seek the satisfaction of their curiosity, and that is dangerous if at the same time they are not disposed to do something, and if they are convinced that it is impossible to do anything against it. This was only circulated over in Europe.
I got another question here for you, Robert, as well, because there's going to just keep coming in here. Hopefully we're going to get some phone calls as well. Another question here says, ask Robert what he is seeing right now. So, just to kind of skip ahead because of all these incredible photographs that you basically laid out, and they are pretty incredible. I've seen these as well, my friend. Our friend Marshall Masters, and he's going to be on tomorrow night, by the way. He's saying, and I'm thinking you're probably going to pretty much agree with his statement. He's saying that the binary solar system is now within Earth's orbit. Is this what you're seeing, and this is what the shocking information really is all about, that it is, basically it's crunch time? It's time to deal with this because it is here now.
Okay. The brown dwarf star we call Nemesis is a companion star to our sun. It is not a binary in the true term.
Okay, well, hold on. Before you go forward, explain the difference between a companion and binary. Break those two differences down for me, because I need to wrap my head around this.
Okay, if we were a binary system, we would have two suns orbiting around each other, very close.
Right. Okay,
just like in several movies, Star Wars, Luke is
and Melancholia. Wouldn't Melancholia be one of those movies as well, which didn't get much notoriety, but it showed it as like a binary sun?
I'm not sure because I've never seen that. I can only talk about what I've seen.
Okay.
Star Wars, the original Star Wars, has Luke looking up into the sky and seeing three suns. That would be a binary.
Well, that'd be a trinary. Now, if there were three, it'd be a trinary. Right.
Now, our solar system has an Oort cloud that goes around our solar system. The Nemesis system also has an Oort cloud. It's orbiting around our solar system, I think, from right. It's going around our solar system in a clockwise.
So it'd be going clockwise. It'd be going clockwise as our system goes counterclockwise, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Now I had, so much information is out there. Your listeners would be, why haven't we been told about this stuff before?
Yeah,
See,
well, that's
NASA,
what I've always said. That's what I've always said, Robert.
NASA left a phone line open over in the Azores years ago, allowing a PowerPoint presentation to be made from this information showing our solar system and the Nemesis solar system interacting in 2009. This information went from 2009 to December 21st, 2012. The date of the end of the Mayan calendar, I think we all remember that.
Of course.
Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Nope.
And
nothing at all.
Everyone was being blasted for even believing it. But in this PowerPoint presentation that was created on December 21st, 2012, NASA had already projected that the planet Nibiru would be 20 AUs, astronomical units away from orbiting through our solar system. Now, I started posting these images. Now, an astronomer friend in South America demanded to know where I got this information from, and he demanded to see each and every picture of the 8 images. I finally was able to send them, and he worked out the incoming speed of planet number 6. And he said we would not see this thing in our solar system until November, December of 2014. And lo and behold, we start seeing what was being described as a second sun in the skies over southern Earth.
Right.
This is all being debunked as digital camera illness. Don't believe this. Don't believe that. These are all screwed up images.
Right.
On April 10th, 2015, in the skies over Newmire 3 station down in Antarctica, with a U.S. government webcam, this large object with a certain type of striping pattern was clearly imaged. Now, Newmire 3 station had been tracking this one thing in their skies since before 2011. Okay? The Jesuits are paying for all of the planet's observatories to track this.
And I agree with you, because they are they are the rulers behind the Catholic movement. They are the rulers behind the Vatican. I absolutely know that without a fact.
The Vatican, since Pope Pius XII, put the Jesuits in charge of all alien activities. That's why their observatory is up in the San Francisco Mountains in Arizona. The Jesuits have been paying for all this stuff to be kept quiet.
And Robert, I kind of screwed up. I meant to say, I know that is absolute fact. I said without. My bad. I meant that as an absolute fact, because I don't want to get anybody. I don't want to get anybody to get twisted in their bunch going, what the hell did he just say?
Okay, mid-1995. Israel, the Vatican, the U.S. joined in a joint power thing to have an advanced spacecraft called Silo to be built in Area 51, either with ET help or with ET technology.
Robert,
it was launched.
Is that word silo an acronym for something?
If it is, it's never been released. That's just a name that's always been released.
Okay.
It was launched by the Aurora space plane, which doesn't exist.
Right.
But there's a photograph of it.
Yeah, I know. And I've seen it, by the way. I have seen it. Just so you know,
yes.
I have seen it with my own two eyes, streaking across the night sky at such a high rate of speed, it was gone in a flash. Just, I want to let you know that it is real. I've seen it.
This advanced spacecraft flew from the Earth well out past Pluto, and it met up with the planet Nibiru as it was incoming. You see, the planet Nibiru orbits around the Nemesis brown dwarf star as planet number 6. In its orbit, it goes through a part of our solar system between Jupiter and Mars.
Right.
It goes at a high angle from 35 to 40 degrees downwards below our sun and comes back upwards. Robert S. Harrington, back in 1990s, was put on a team of scientists by NASA. He very clearly describes in his papers that Nibiru has a circular orbit, not an elongated orbit, and that it has a high angle to the ecliptic in our solar system between 35 and 40 degrees. Okay. Where can you see that? Go to astroviewer.com. Astroviewer, if you click on our solar system and you back way off as far as you can go, you click on the button that says the dwarf planet of Sedna, Sebna, and then back off again as far as you can. Sedna has a huge circular orbit at a high angle to our ecliptic, between 35 and 40 degrees.
Right.
And here's our little tiny solar system inside this huge orbit of Sedna. So, Nemesis has a tremendous orbit, and we are inside it.
So we are okay. So all right, let me wrap my head around what you just said. That we are in a much larger system than this small.
Not we. Our solar system is inside the orbit of Sedna.
That's the point I was getting to. When I say meaning our solar system is within a much larger system in itself. Is basically what you're alluding to.
Now, a Cal State professor put out a movie years ago, which is still on YouTube. It's called Nemesis, our son's evil twin.
I remember that. I watched it. I remember that.
And in that movie, he has drawings put up showing Sedna orbiting around our solar system, but does not show Nemesis, brown dwarf star. Now, NASA somehow imaged Nemesis back in 2007, 2008.
Well, that's okay. You bring up a really good point. You just said somehow imaged. In my mind, if their technology is that advanced, they didn't somehow image that. They imaged that because of this very advanced technology, which they have not shared with us. So I'm going to say they imaged that with extraordinary technology and somehow just decided to omit the fact that we have any of this technology, but just give us scraps of paper or scraps of images that we have to grasp onto and then disseminate and come up with a certain conclusion. But go ahead, Robert.
Now, this is an infrared image from NASA. NASA also imaged Nemesis using computer-enhanced imaging and false color to show this red image. This was all being caught by the South Pole Telescope. The South Pole Telescope is not a telescope you can look through. It uses advanced technology. Yeah. Exactly.
Right, infrared, exactly.
And these images were leaked by people there at South Pole Telescope, and those people just disappeared.
Yeah.
Marshall Masters has talked about this for years.
Absolutely.
Okay? Now, here's another thing that's being lied to us about. The term global warming. Marshall Masters.
Hey, Robert, what do you think? Maybe we should get Al Gore on the show and have him explain global warming. I think we'd end up tearing him apart, tearing him to shreds. What do you think, brother?
That's possible. Now, Marshall Masters started mentioning around 2010 that Pluto was warming up because methane was being seen in its atmosphere. And then the next planet warmed up, and then the next planet warmed up, onwards in towards Saturn, and all of its moons were warming up on the bottom parts. Jupiter, all of its moons were showing warming on the bottom parts, looking downwards. Mars warmed up, on inwards.
Yep, onward and inward, absolutely.
Okay, so the Nemesis system, our companion, is swinging down around our solar system and warming up our solar system. Now, this Cal State professor, he said that he found that every 26 million years there's a mass extinction. Okay?
Yep, I'm following you. I'm going right along with you.
Numerous photographs from 2015 have been showing a huge glow larger than our sun on the horizon. At first, I didn't believe my friend over in Florida, which was sharing his friend's image from over in Egypt. But these images have gotten larger and larger and more prevalent.
And those images, Robert, have gone viral because I've seen those as well. So I have to say I absolutely believe those images. There'd be no reason for anybody to hoax something like that. For what purpose? To what end? It'd be a ridiculous thing to try and hoax something like that.
Okay, let me get into this a little bit better here. Up in Norway, with Project Camelot, an interesting project. A high engineer turned politician, and he outed the DUMBs, the deep underground military bases were being built for the elite only.
Just so you know, Robert, I was following that when that first came out back around 2008. I was aware of that.
Now, he said all the DUMBs and the emergency seed vaults were being built because Planet X was incoming, and that all the elite would go down into these military bases underground, about 2,000 feet underground.
Right.
And they would survive while all the people on the planet would die. And I still have a copy of that one report that was put out by Project Camelot. Okay, that's all the DUMBs. You see, during the Exodus, Ippawar was very clear that the destroyer was in their skies for up to 9 days. And that fire from the sky came down and burned everything that grew. Fields, orchards, vines. And that the stars all shifted to new positions in the skies. Pole shift. And that when they tried to replant, the seeds rotted in the ground until they found out the new growing season.
Right.
Okay? So here you have Ippawar very clearly in his ancient account describing the stars shifting to new positions in the night sky, the growing season shifting. He didn't know the term pole shift back then.
Right, they didn't have an explanation for it, so they described it as best they could through their terminology. I understand that.
Exactly. Now, Pope John Paul II either didn't know that term or didn't use it. They said very clearly the world's oceans would cause all this damage coming up very soon. NASA found something well out beyond Pluto in 1983 by the Iris spacecraft, which was in the exact location, pointing in the exact at the exact whatever, and it caught a huge thing coming in that they described back then as between 4 to 8 times the size of the planet Earth.
Right.
That was 1983. Okay? All right, all this other good stuff. Okay. Now, I think everyone still remembers Comet Elenin. Do you?
Oh, you're making me laugh because, I mean, everybody was like, "Oh, Comet Elenin, LEL, is that the extinction level event?" Well, that came and went.
No, it didn't.
It
Sorry.
didn't. Okay. So explain this to me, Robert. How did it not come and go?
Comet Elenin was being reported on only by amateur astronomers. NASA never had their own official NASA image of this comet coming in.
Okay.
Now, a friend on one of the groups I was on then, he wouldn't tell me his name. He used a different name for on this one group. He said he worked down here at NASA here in California, which is just down below San Francisco. I can't remember the name of the field right there.
That would probably be AT&T ballpark right over there, right?
Somewhere around there. Now, he wanted to see these images I was collecting from these amateur astronomers. And he became very interested in it. Then this one article came out of Russia. It was said that Comet Elenin was in direct communications with a Jupiter-sized planet, which was coming in from out beyond Pluto. A Jupiter-sized planet. Interesting.
Okay, I'm following you.
Then there was another article from China, which said Comet Elenin had UFOs piggyback to it. I saved all this stuff when it popped up. So my friend, he started super enhancing these images from these amateur astronomers far better than anyone could using Photoshop or anything. Suddenly, Comet Elenin didn't look good, and it had two things coming in with it. There was something on the port side, something on the starboard side, and he sent me the images with arrows pointing these things out. Then as it got closer and closer, and as the Chinese came up with this stuff, he said, to hell with this, and he super enhanced it. Here's Comet Elenin. I didn't send you this photograph. Most times my email thing will not allow me to send certain images. I wonder why.
Yeah, I wonder why too. Exactly. But you know, Robert, I know you're trying to go through a succession of events and through a timeline here. I absolutely understand it. But somebody's asking in the chat here. It says, can you please ask Robert about the recent coronal mass ejections that barely missed us and maybe might happen before the arrival of Planet X? So I think what he's basically asking is talking about Ed Dames and the kill shot as Planet X, because if it's breaching within our inner, solar system, which is now what Marshall Masters is talking about, that it is within Earth's inner solar system.
Planet
is that
Nibiru
is that what we're looking at? Maybe we might have, because we've seen, and I know because I've been following this, and I know you follow this as well. We've had massive coronal mass ejections coming off the sun, yet we're supposed to be going into the solar minimum, and yet
the solar minimum was back in 2012. Okay.
Okay. So you're saying, hold on. So you're saying the minimum was from 2012. We've gone into a maximum into 2018, and we're going back out into another minimum right now, or are we still into a maximum according to your data?
Every 11 years. That's where it changes. But, and this is a large but, the ETs, whomever you say they are, they placed humongous satellites around our sun.
Okay.
Over 10 years ago. The NASA SOHO satellite has been imaging them for years.
And they've also been masking them out, by the way.
Only with the images that they get a chance to, but they've been leaking way too much information from stereo ahead, stereo behind, SOHO's 10 cameras, the SETI camera, which is on stereo ahead, which is a U.S. Navy camera.
Okay.
These images have been showing something. You see, leaks years ago said very clearly that our solar system, to put it simply, is on a voltage amperage system. Our sun,
I absolutely believe in that. It's like a giant capacitor, without a question. You got no argument for me.
Our sun, and this is their term, not mine, sends out a hyperbole of energy to each one of the planets, and then from the planet out to each one of its moons. So, when anything comes into our solar system from outside, it is on a different voltage amperage. There's a huge reaction. Comet Elenin was supposed to have exploded when it hit the ecliptic, but it exploded far above our ecliptic by something. Okay?
So in other words, you're saying, because I watched that whole thing, I watched, the comet come in at probably about a 40-degree angle, go around the sun as it came out. We all watched that explosive CME, or whatever it was, that created that CME to disintegrate that comet.
Supposedly.
That's why I said supposedly.
Now, Hollywood has been playing around with political activity for years. Firefox was put out, and they almost paid a huge price for it. Then, Independence Day, the first one.
Yeah, I remember the movie. I watched it like 4 times.
Outed the fact that the president was out of the loop about aliens and flying saucers.
Is that really new? I mean, they've all been out of the loop forever, right? So they're mimicking reality.
Exactly. The next film, Deep Impact, with Morgan Freeman as a black U.S. president.
Right, 1998, exactly.
Outed the fact about the deep underground military bases being built around the planet for each country's personal things.
Right.
So what the dumbs up in Russia will be are nothing like the dumbs in the United States are, or in China, or everyone else around the planet. The third film, 2012, actually Battle LA. Battle LA had asteroids coming down just like the Chinese thought were piggybacked to Comet Elenin.
Right.
and we had to fight off all these aliens that came out of the oceans from these asteroids that went into our oceans.
Right.
Movie 2012, another black U.S. president. But he has to deal with the Earth's crust. Here's the exact term, Earth crust displacement.
Right.
Is going to be slipping around the planet, but only because our sun is causing it.
Right, and because it's changing the core of the Earth through the neutrinos. I remember that. But the pied de resistance, my friend, was knowing. Remember that? That was the pied de resistance, that the sun would let out a massive solar flare, and I think that was solely based on Ed Dame's predictions of the kill shot. I think that's what they based that whole movie on. And you know what? All his predictions through his porthole of his, binocular vision that he can see says, hey, you know what? I can see these precursor events as we get closer to the kill shot. So he can't put a date on it. He can only see and look through the binocular, right? And you can see the mountain far out of the distance. So the only way you can judge it is look at the things that precede the events to that mountain. So he can see maybe a fence very close to him. Then for a little further out, he can see maybe a barn or a house and a barn, a farmer's field. And a little further out, he can see maybe a small lake that goes beyond the barn and the farmer's field and house. And a little further than that, he can see a field of trees. And a little further out from that, maybe he can see some small little hills. As he gets closer to looking at the final precursor to the final event of the kill shot. That's the way I kind of view, in my thought process, how he kind of disseminates that information of the kill shot, looking through his, ocular point of view, that pinpoint point of view, as he can see this event getting closer and closer and closer.
Now, here is where they disinformed you. The movie 2012 gave way too much information, and they paid for it. The movie 2012 was based primarily off Edgar Casey's predictions before he died in 1945.
Well, hold on a minute. Now, I'm going to differ with you on that, because they used the predications or the predilections of Charles Hapgood in that movie, because they specifically they named Charles Hapgood as the authenticator of that in his movie, talking about crustal shift displacement, and the whole thing with Woody Harrelson in the trailer at their Yellowstone, talking with what's his name? I can't remember. I can't think of his name right now. But they used Charles Hapgood. Woody Harrelson and the other actor. I can't remember. Pretty famous. But they used Charles Hapgood. They never mentioned Edgar Casey. They used Charles Hapgood as the thread line in that.
Hold on here.
Okay, all right. Let me have it. Give it to me.
Okay. In the movie, they talk about the Earth's crust shifting because it's being heated up underneath by something. When the planet Nibiru, now I've gotten stuff from two of my friends on this. The planet Nibiru, as it came in close towards the Earth, in the Holy Bible, the Earth stood still for 1 or 2 days when a big fight was going on. The Hopis say that the Earth stood still. Mosai of China, from Book 5, talks about how the Earth stood still.
Okay.
All right. Now, Movie 2012 went way back in time. Near the end, you have a Chinese monk up in his monastery, and he feels the air over his right side. He turns around, he sees the oceans topping the high mountains of China. This goes back to Chinese Emperor Yahoo, believe it or not, Yahou, sometime around 2900 BC. This is in the book, The Su King, Shu King. And they talk about him seeing something coming out of the constellation of Yin. And it caused the oceans to top the high mountains of China. It took them 13 years to drain the salt water from the high mountain valleys back down to the rivers. And they had to find out where north, south, east, and west was again. I didn't know the Chinese created a functioning compass back then. Okay? That was the first time. In The Lost Book of Enki by Zechariah Sitchin, tablets number 9 and 10 from the ancient Sumerian tablets, very clearly detailed that Nibiru's orbit through our solar system was altered by the 7 from the Earth out towards Pluto over several SARs, over every 3,600 years, until Nibiru came in closer towards Mars and the Earth than it had ever done before. And that the Anunnaki, the Nordic ones, were tracking this. And they saw it coming up from below the Earth as a huge reddish planet. And its gravitational pull pulled all the ice off of the frozen land, creating a huge ripple going northwards.
Let me stop you right there, Robert. I need to ask you a specific question. Pull. What do you mean by pull? You said pull. Do you mean that because of the planet itself shifting in a pole shift, that the ice actually released itself off the land and slid off the land, or did it melt rapidly, causing massive flooding? And with
the gravitational...
hold on. Just let me finish. Just let me finish. With the gravitational shift, as this ice is melting rapidly because our magnetosphere collapses on itself, there's no protection from the sun, no protection from the earth. You know, Scotty put the shields up, is gone. As a massive, rapid melting of ice, the pole shifts, right? We have because we have, and I'm sure you understand it, that our bulge at the equator carries most of the bulk of the water. Our planet's not perfectly round. It's kind of squashed. The bulge of the planet contains most of the water. As the shield collapses, there is no compression wave anymore taking place on the planet, so it kind of rebubbles itself. As it rebubbles, all this water comes massively inundating all the coastlines. The shield goes, our magnetic shield goes back up, our planet recompresses, and the water comes back. Is that what you're talking about?
No. I'm talking about the very intense gravitational electromagnetic pull, the gravity, the pulling effects.
Okay, and I got that. I'm following you. I got that. The pulling effect, pulling our magnetic pull over. Got it.
Now, it pulls all the gravitational pull of the planet Nibiru slows down the rotation of the Earth. Now, you just described a lot of things right there. If the Earth's rotation slows down, all the water at the equator has to go back around the planet because there's no rotation keeping it out at the equator.
Right.
You also have intense heat being created by the winds going around the planet. They're not being stopped by the rotation.
That's right, because our jet stream continues. Even though we stop, our jet stream continues. And I got that exactly.
Exactly. Now, there's another ancient account in the Colburn, which sounds like it should have been in Zechariah Sitchin's book.
Uh-huh.
You see, Enki knew what the planet Nibiru was going to do to the Earth, and he was told to keep quiet. But he went down to one of his sons and spoke through a reed wall, telling him to build this ark very quickly.
Now, that was Enlil who told him that, right?
Nope. Enlil wanted all of the Aigi and the Anunnaki living here, well, hold on, the Aigi and the humans to die.
So it was Enlil who wanted us to die, and it was Enki who actually formed a friendship, a relationship with the hominid, or the species that they actually created here on Earth, which was through the hominid species in their own bloodline to create the slave race. So, okay, because I always get that a little mixed up once in a while. So Enki wants us to live, and Lil does not want us to live. That Anunnaki being wants us to die. Got it.
Enlil wanted all the Anunnaki to survive here on the planet. They were all told to go to the highest mountains, and they would survive there. Enlil wanted the Aigi and the humans to die. Enki didn't want this to happen. Enki went to his son and spoke through a reed wall, telling him to build this ark. Now his son went to the king and said an ark has to be built. The king was going to build the ark down at the ocean. He was told to build the ark up in the mountains because the oceans would come up to it, just like in the movie 2012.
Right, and that's when Noah built the ark on Mount Ararat, right?
No. Noah is only used in the Holy Bible. Ziusudra was Enki's son in the Lost Book of Enki. Ziusudra is only used in the Sumerian text only. The Sumerian texts go back 4,000 years before the Bible's time.
All right. There's another question here, Robert, because we're talking about the Anunnaki. It says, please ask about Marshall Masters' assertion that the Anunnaki will do genetic experimentation with Earth women during the arrival of Planet X. Now, I'll give you my take on this. That there is no Anunnaki left. This is my assertion that there is no Anunnaki left because they died off a long time ago. But it is the Planet X system, which maybe, and this is my assertion alone, which maybe the Anunnaki lived on the planet Nibiru, which is part of the Planet X system. But what's your take on that? Because it says, I'll repeat it one more time so you get it clearly. Please ask about Marshall Masters' assertion that the Anunnaki will do genetic experimentation with Earth women during the arrival of Planet X.
Now, as to what Marshall Masters is saying about this, I honestly cannot tell you. I honestly don't know.
Okay.
All I can tell you is that in early 2000, a high-ranking Jesuit priest was sent out of the Vatican to talk to an Italian reporter, Christopher Barbato.
Yes, very familiar with that. Yes, go ahead, lay it out.
And he told him everything that the other governments were not telling the people.
You know, Robert,
Christopher
I'm surprised.
Barbato checked.
I was just going to say, I'm surprised that the Italian reporter, has not been snuffed out to date about the information that he put out. I'm very surprised because so many scientists who put photographic evidence out have been snuffed out.
My information, rightly or wrongly, says that Christopher Barbato works for the Vatican right now.
Makes sense.
Christopher Barbato, an Italian reporter, had his own UFO booklet, magazine, and he checked out this high-ranking Jesuit priest and found him to be real. So he was telling him the truth as far as he knew. Christopher Barbato told his friend Luca Scantamburlo only some of the information. Luca Scantamburlo with Project Camelot in 2008 had a 2-hour video still up on YouTube called The Return of Planet X. And he goes into very detailed information that, yes, Eisenhower and Bishop McIntyre were there at Muroc Airfield in 1954. He also says that Pope Pius XII in 1955 met personally with the Anunnaki. Eisenhower,
or at least, but Robert, let me just interject this. At least what he thought or may have thought at the time was the Anunnaki. His thought process.
All I can do is tell you that Pope Pius XII met personally with them in the Vatican Gardens in 1955. Eisenhower met personally with them at Holloman Air Force Base, but they were being called the Nordic ones then.
Is that like what Charles Hall talks about, the tall whites? Is that what you're referring to as well? Because that sounds, eerily familiar to what Charles Hall was in his book, The Tall Whites. He's pretty much describing what you're talking about right now.
I honestly don't know. I've heard of his book and what he's been saying. All I can tell you is what was leaked by the Jesuits to Christopher Barbato and then to Lucas Scantamburlo. Lucas Scantamburlo said very clearly that Pope Pius XII met with them personally in 1955 in the Vatican Gardens. The Pope described the Anunnaki as a warrior race and that they were from the planet Nibiru. Very clearly. Now, Lucas Scantamburlo with the Return of Planet X, on the video, if you click on the thing Show Me More, it gives you Lucas Scantamburlo's page on Project Camelot. I've been to that page too many times.
And so have I, Robert. So have I. And I've watched every single video. And I'm telling you, some of the information has been mind-blowing. There was even the banker, right? I don't know if you remember. I can't remember his name. I know he's Middle Eastern. But he's talking about the return of Planet X. So you're talking about this guy was a Middle Eastern banker who was aware of what's going on. And he's saying, hey, look, it's coming. And everybody kind of seems to relate to the same time frame right around now. No one, I mean, for a few people, except like my friend Bob Dean, right? He says, count on it, November 2017, it's here. So we're all talking about the same. We're all talking about the same time frame. Just let me finish this out. We're all talking about the same time frame, and you're saying right now, it's here. It's in the inner. It is within Earth's.
It's within our solar system.
Yeah, it's within Earth's solar system. Marshall Masters just came out with an article saying it's within their solar system, because I want to get to the meat and potatoes of this, because we only got a half hour left, and I want to go through these photographs, my friend, because what you're showing, and I've seen this, and I was going through this with another talk radio show host who was asking me to look at these photographs and say, hey, look, this is pretty frightening. What do you make of these? I'm no photographic expert, but I know how to do gamma tests for sure, and I don't even have to do gamma tests on some of these photographs to see what is sitting right in front of me, how real. Because they're two-dimensional photographs, the only thing you can do is a gamma test, because you don't really know how far in back or in front of the solar corona these depictions of these objects are. But one thing I can tell you, I've never seen anything like this, and it's frightening. So, Robert, we got a half hour left. Let's do this, man. Let's go to the photograph, because if this is what you're saying it is, everybody needs to get prepared right now. There is no more time. The time is out. We're out of time, my friend.
Okay. Here is from the Cauldron. Ippur, going back to ancient Egyptian history, puts a lot of stuff down in this book. Its movements on high were very slow. Below it swirled in the manner of smoke, and it remained close to the sun, whose face it hid. There was a bloody redness about it. Now, the Cauldron dates from the Exodus. I grew up in Catholic school. Every Catholic knew that after the Exodus, the new Egyptian pharaoh demanded to know how the god of the slaves was more powerful than all of Egypt's magic. Very closely right there. Okay. Now, Ippur said all this stuff happened. The dark days began with the last visitation of the destroyer, and they were foretold by strange omens in the skies. All these other things they were seeing in the skies. NASA took an image in 2008 of the planet Nibiru, and it's a cropped photo that was leaked. And there's 13 arrows going out to different things. 13 satellites. Now, Nibiru orbits between the Jupiter and Mars. It's closer in towards the Mars. They're closer in towards the Earth. We have been seeing the outermost 8 or 9 of these satellites in our skies since April 10th, 2015.
I agree with you on that.
And I had images of every single one. At first, they were using the chemtrails heavily over the Earth during the daytime, the white chemtrails. And then they were using black chemtrails for nighttime. But they're now using an advanced alien technology using lasers to hide these satellites in our skies. And it's been people on the Earth been catching this at nighttime and during the day with their own photography. Now, last week, there was this one guy in New York who didn't like what he saw in the sky at nighttime, and he videotaped it. here's this roundish object, and in the center you can see these sparkly things shooting out. What's that thing that you can? It's an electrical thing, but it's inside a big globe, and you can put your hands around the outsides of it, and you see sparks going to your hands.
Oh, Tesla coil. That's a Tesla coil.
Tesla coil inside a glass ball, and everyone loved it. Now, this is exactly how this image was showing. These sparks coming from the center out towards around the object, and then the object became very clear. Where before all you could see was a round disc of some kind. I have numerous photographs showing in the skies during the daytime huge round objects but no detail. And that's this stuff they're using. Now, my contacts are telling me that this stuff won't work much longer. They don't tell me how or why. They're just saying they will not work much longer, and everyone during this month will be able to start seeing this stuff.
Okay, Robert, before we go any further, because I know we're getting to this, but all the photos that was emailed to me by Bad Baby, are all these photographs on your website? Because I just posted it in the link.
They're all on my Facebook page.
Okay.
I've been putting up there. I'm sorry, Facebook, Robert H. Evans Jr.
Okay, let me go to your web Facebook page then, Robert H. Continue. I'm just going to listen and then go to your Facebook page.
Okay, now here's the other big point. My contacts are saying sometime around September 23rd, when we are in the time of Virgo, things will start. What things? I have no idea. John Moore, I'm quite sure you know about him.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
John Moore was military and military intelligence. He has an education that leaves me far in the dust, and with his contacts even further. He has been saying for over a year now in all his videos that this would happen sometime around September, October of 2017.
Right.
Now, until this recent stuff started to come out about September 23rd, 2017, we didn't know about that. We didn't know that these things would be showing more and more in our skies now. You see, the powers that be, whomever they are, ET, our leaders, or a combination of both, they don't want mass panic.
Right.
This has been predicted by Native Americans for several years now in several books, where they saw everything west of the Rockies gone. That there was rioting and killing, and they were all hiding away from the humans, the white man. Okay?
Right.
Edgar Casey came out with a map back in 1945 showing the entire West Coast was gone, used in the book, in the movie 2012, where they're flying out of Los Angeles, and here's the entire West Coast breaking up and going down into the oceans. Edgar Casey said the new West Coast shoreline would be in Colorado.
Right.
Edgar Casey had these maps made up showing the Great Lakes ripping a huge hole through the United States down to the Gulf of Mexico and showing most of the East Coast gone. The military has been using these, sending them, giving them to the high-ranking military retirees for over 30 years now, and they've been leaked off and on.
Right. Right. They're all living in the Ozarks. I know. That's been going on forever.
John Moore, when you had to usher admirals into a secret meeting.
Yeah, I've heard him say that.
He saw the same map up on the blackboard. And he remembered that map, and he took Edgar Casey's map and he drew in more, showing that the Mississippi River was 50 miles wide.
You know what, Robert? I need to say this, that, Don has put the challenge out there, and this has only been recently. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a lot of old TV shows that have, in the background of some of these shows depict these maps, and you can clearly see more than 50 miles, probably more like 200-mile wide gaps going up through the middle of the United States where the Mississippi would be. These gaps, showing basically the topography being underground and inundated by water. Florida's gone, most of the East Coast is gone, part of California's gone, and the inundation going all the way up into the Great Lakes is gone. And this is not just like one map on one show.
No.
This is on numerous shows, and it is wild. You can go to John's site, and he has these posted on his website. And because he put that challenge out, I found out some interesting stuff on my own. And I'm telling you, man, they knew this, just like John said, and you've been talking about all night, since 47 going into the 50s and 60s. When they all knew this, they started, because the elite always say they have to tell us what they're doing before they do it, right? Very covertly or inadvertently putting it into TV shows or films, but they've showed all this stuff, which is just incredible, man. But let me listen. There's another question here, and I got to put this out because the listeners they come before me, man.
Sure.
Says, please ask.
Go ahead.
It says, please ask if CERN is affecting us and the trinary. You were waiting for that, huh?
Interesting point there. CERN has been playing around with interdimensional portals. TV shows have been talking about certain things recently.
Right.
The Dead Files with Amy and her friend. Amy can talk to ghosts. Well, on one show, she's up in Oregon, and she's in this one house, and she's seeing an interdimensional or something being shown in the backyard of this one house. And very clearly, she is seeing interdimensional beings and creatures coming out of this portal. Okay?
Well, that's interesting, because is it the interdimensional beings that are actually creating the portals themselves? Because they have that capability. They absolutely have the technology. If you remember, going back to Jaime Maussan's video, going back a few years, where if you remember, those boys in Mexico were playing soccer in the street late at night underneath a street lamp, and one boy kicks a ball, and it goes, a little further than expected. He picks up the ball, walks it back, and then you see this interdimensional being, an alien, basically come out of a pole. Okay, as where the street light would be over that, and you see this alien come out to try and grab this kid. The kid sees it and he freaks out. They all freak out. They start running, and then that video gets to Jaime Maussan. They go back with a Geiger counter, and it shows that there was some sort of something, a porthole opened up, because the Geiger counter went off, just went crazy when they went up near the pole. So obviously there was a lagging effect, or how would you call it, a residual effect of that porthole being opened up and on the Geiger counter. So that would make sense.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back to 1954. Gerald Light
Yes.
The interdimensional beings called the Etherians.
Yes.
Gerald Light described them very clearly as glowing. They glowed while they were there. The Holy Bible, I'm not trying to knock anyone's religion here.
Sure,
The Holy
absolutely.
Bible mentions the spirits coming down from the skies, and they glowed. Okay?
Well, here, let me throw this at you. I just got something else. It says massive surveillance creating with D-wave a matrix synchronicity. Some would call gang stalking and opening dimensions, bringing in demons. What do you think of that?
I'm not sure. I'm not the educated person that should know all about this stuff. I'm just your average person. Now,
right, well,
here's another
I'm just
point.
throwing this at you.
Yeah.
Here's something else. It says,
No.
What, can I throw this at you?
Well, I just want to throw this other thing out.
Go ahead.
We're running out of time.
Go ahead. Finish your statement.
Michael Scallion has been working with Edgar Casey's works for years, and so have a whole bunch of other prophets. Michael Scallion put out this huge map, supposedly like Edgar Casey would have done, showing the Earth after this coming pole shift, showing exactly what Edgar Casey did in the map for America, showing the rest of the
planet.
I
Am America map, exactly. The I Am America map with Lori Toy, exactly.
Right. So, you've got other continents going underwater.
Yep.
You've got other continents coming up out of the water. Between what's California and Japan, China, Russia, you have Lemuria, a huge landmass coming out of the water.
Right.
Over off Cuba, you have Atlantis coming up out of the water. New Zealand is a small little tiny island now. It's a huge landmass. All of Europe, according to these maps, from England all the way back to Russia, is underwater. Parts of Italy are above the water, pushed up. Russia is pushed way up out of the water. That's why the Russians, for years, have been building underground cities up in the Ural Mountains. Okay?
Right.
China has already built numerous big cities down in Africa, which are fully ready, but they're heavily guarded. No one's living in them.
Well, it's just like our underground bases, here, heavily guarded. Most people don't know where they are, and if you find them, you're probably going to end up dead if you do find them.
And that's why the FEMA camps were built for the survivors. You see, before Barack Obama became president, there were numerous nightmares and terror dreams, which I became known of from a lot of people. They said a huge wall of water came in on the West Coast, and the survivors were in hiding times.
Right.
They were hiding from the black helicopters with the FLIR device on the front. The FLIR device picks up heat. Okay?
I was just going to say, Robert, have you noticed? I was just going to say, have you noticed of all these so-called, and what the media, the so-called mainstream media calls these rogue waves coming inland, and there is no explanation for that? Well, sure, there's an explanation for that. It's the gravitational effect of the pull from this binary system that's coming in as it pushes and pulls. Yeah, and they're going to sit here and tell us rogue waves. What a crock of, look, I don't want to use indecent language here, but
Okay.
It's insanity, brother.
The movie 2012 tried to clearly show this.
That's right, with the cruise ship.
Partly. When Air Force One was in the skies, they clearly said that the Earth's crust was shifting now. And
right.
they went to the computer animations, and they were showing these huge, humongous waves all around the planet. Okay, let's look at this very carefully. If the Earth's crust does shift, just like in a bathtub, all the water is shifting with the Earth's crust as it's going.
That's the
when the
slosh
Earth's
effect.
crust stops, just like in the movie 2012, huge waves going all around the planet were striking every continent, going inward. What did Pope John Paul II say in 1980? What if it was in writing that the Earth's oceans would do this to every continent, killing millions within minutes?
That's right.
You see, the powers that be are planning on a massive depopulation because of what's coming, either because the entire Earth is shifting over without pole shift, or because of the pole shift as described in movie 2012. Now, here's another thing.
Right.
Orion Radio is off the air now.
Right.
They ended their stuff about a couple months ago. In 2012, Orion News Radio, with their two people during the morning hours, did a nice hour-long show, which I still have a copy of. They were talking to Just Call Me Kit. She had a YouTube page. No longer exists. They were talking to her about all the U.S. government accounts that are being put up for other people to bid on. She was a Tea Party Republican who was irritated by Secretary Clinton ordering massive amounts of partying equipment. So she started following all of this stuff.
Uh-huh.
Museums, she didn't mention which museums, were putting things underground in the upper state.
Robert, you still there? Oh, I hope I didn't lose you, brother.
We lost him. He'll call back in.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the problem. When somebody catches wind of the show, when they start listening in, they get cut off. What an awful thing. But I wanted to kind of get a time frame with Robert of where this is all going to be. I mean, it seems like it's all culminating to this particular time frame, folks. And with Robert, you guys, I put his Facebook page in the chat. You can all go in there, sign in, and look at the photos. You can also go to his website, which I put in the chat. But he has some pretty compelling evidence. I guess we have our own theories, our own viewpoints, our own point of view, understanding. Pretty compelling evidence. The only thing I can say is wait and see. Because if it comes down, we won't be having this conversation again for a long, long time, because it means the event has already happened. So who knows? I hope he's wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I've been talking about this for years. I hope I'm absolutely wrong. I hope to, finish out my life in the way I came in, naked and with maybe with no knowledge. Maybe leave with a little bit of knowledge, but I hope that's the reality. But then if not, then we were here to experience this event, to go through this experience, and I'm okay with that as well. But I'd like to see humanity go on, I can tell you that much.
Sorry, my friend, I was disconnected by the powers that be.
That's exactly what I was saying, Robert. When we start talking about this information, and then you get to specific points, because I know they monitor all the shows, and you get to specific points, and we're bringing up something very valuable.
They have been monitoring my Facebook, my telephone, my emails, my Skype for years now.
Sure.
They took out 2 desktop computers and 18 laptop hard drives.
Yeah, I believe it.
You know, I must be one of the top UFO alien people to have this stuff being done to me.
Well, and
okay?
Same thing happened to me, Robert. When I was doing my show, I had the black helicopters over my house. They were intimidating me. I mean, my whole family was outside looking at this, and I said, you know what, this is just intimidation. They were basically 100 feet over the house.
Okay, so very quickly back to this Orion News radio show. We were putting things in underground bunkers for militaries. We have a huge underground military base up in Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, somewhere, which is for national disasters. This one lady, she details very closely that 3 additional underground massive food storage places were on contract, starting at $73 billion each.
Wow.
And she gives all the square footage. And she said all the 48 United States are divided up into A, B, and C. A had this many states, and she mentions each and every one. B had all of these states. C only had a few. And she does not mention 48 states. So she's backing up what John Moore is showing on the Edgar Cayce maps.
Right.
John Moore also said the Vatican had a bunker up in the northern states. Now, in my opinion, all of the other major religions have the same thing, so that when the dust settles, they can all pop back up. This is where the New World Order comes from.
Right.
Whomever has the most surviving military will be the king of the planet. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now, according to the Anunnaki, they said that Eisenhower signed several treaties with different alien races. That's why we've been getting all these mass animal butchered animals found in fields, the abduction of so many people. According to them, Eisenhower was put off by these alien races, which went well over the amount they agreed to. But Eisenhower was afraid they would invade us if we ever did anything.
Well, it's also part of the hybridization program as well, because if you talk to David Jacobs and listen to his information, it sounds like that they're also preparing for the hybridization of this planet when a good amount of people are basically knocked off of it. But, you know, we're down, Robert, we're down to the last couple of minutes here. I guess my last and best question to you is this. How close are we? When do you expect these events? We're seeing these, it's a ridiculous thing to say, because we're seeing the events unfold every single day. And
right.
As the events get stronger, the weather gets more bizarre. The extreme heat, the extreme cold. We're expecting, by the way, starting tomorrow through the 15th, a massive cold front to come in through the United States in August, when August is one of the top temperatures for summer. So the weather's gone berserk. The jet stream's out of whack. The sun's doing all kinds of crazy things. We're seeing now, and the evidence is clear to me anyway, we're seeing these objects out within it's near the sun. Okay, we're seeing these things. It's being photographed on a daily basis now. It can't be hidden. How close are we to the final events for this transition to take place? Land masses rising, falling, water inundation, a lot of lives lost, which is very, very sad if this happens. And God, I hope this doesn't happen. But if it does, how close are we, my friend?
I'm gonna put this on John Moore here because he says very clearly in his videos and on his radio show, including his information from his secret contacts, from his time in military intelligence, his friends in real estate, showing everyone shifting, all these retired naval military people showing up in the Adirondacks, up in the upper parts of
the Ozarks, actually.
Ozarks. Sorry. Up there in by the Denver airport in the Upper Plains area. That all of this would be happening, according to John Moore, sometime in September, October.
And
my contacts are saying September 23rd it'll start, but this stuff will continue into 2018.
Well into
so
2020.
John Moore says the same thing.
Yeah, well into 2020.
I don't know about 2020. All I know is what's been talked about by John Moore, my contacts.
No, I'm saying, right, I'm just simply saying, starting from, and I'm saying November, all the way, and these events will continue to happen all the way into 2020, and then they'll slowly, reside as the system starts to pull out and go back out. So we can expect a lot more.
There's one other point here. The planet Nibiru is orbiting clockwise through our solar system. The Earth and 7 other planets orbit counterclockwise.
Right.
So just like at night on the freeway, an oncoming car and you going the same direction, the closure rate is very, very fast.
Absolutely.
That's why this thing is showing up. See, people are videotaping this in their skies. So I'm not just relying on someone's photographs. Okay, here's an official photograph. Stereo ahead. Stereo ahead only looks at the sun, nothing else.
Right, that's right.
0510, stereo ahead saw 4 objects near our sun.
That's
3
right.
of them, and that's in your photographs there. A friend of mine took that photograph apart and did a collage showing all 4 objects. They shouldn't be there. Now NASA pulled that image very fast.
Right.
But I have it because someone else saw it and posted the image.
And the only thing I would have to do on a photograph like this, Robert, is do a gamma test. Pull it down to 0, and what you're going to see, in my opinion, if I actually even had to do this, because I don't, but you can see where when you do a gamma test, pull it down to 0, the only thing that's going to show is the existing light from a solid object, and you're going to have the sun, the object to the left, as I'm looking at it, that is crested.
And 3
that's
below
solid
it.
object, right? This solid object is crested, and then the one underneath between the 3 objects, there's a lit object, which I happen to believe is behind this, or either behind or parallel to the sun, or behind, which is lit. And in a gamma test, those 3 objects will show up, So when you do a gamma test, bring it down to 0, and when the light still penetrates through that gamma test, bring it down to 0, meaning those objects are real. They're there, and they're solid. So factually looking at...
You have the photographs, my friend.
Yeah. So I'm saying this is 100% real. I don't know about the other three objects, okay? I don't know, and I'm not going to even speculate on that, but I can tell you the two objects, the one that's crested and the one that's lit, do a gamma test on that. 100%, those are real. Those are solid objects. They're there. So the only thing I can say is we're in for one hell of a ride if this is absolutely a fact. And everybody has culminated to these dates, and I can only stand by what my friend Bob Dean said, and he said this years ago. And Marshall Masters has always said this and stood behind this as well. He says 2017, I think he said September, November. I can't remember now. It's been so long. But he says you can take that to the bank. My friend has never lied to me. As long as I've known him, he's always been honest and truthful, and everything. And he's clairvoyant, but not only clairvoyant, he's been a remote viewer for a long time. He saw this coming as well as Ed Dames and so many others. So this is factual to me. Now, the only thing we can do is wait and see what causes they are going to bring, what effects they're going to bring to the planet. How bad is it going to affect the planet? Not that it hasn't affected the planet badly enough. The flooding has gone extreme, Robert. You know this as well as I do. You could look every day, massive downpours, microbursts of water coming down literally within hours, flooding cities and small towns worldwide, and this hasn't stopped. It's only increased. So I think you're absolutely right. It just, I guess, the determining factor is to see how much worse it gets, because we have 7 billion people on this planet, and there's going to be a massive reduction if this gets any worse, my friend. But Robert, I want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing your information tonight. I know this was an emergency broadcast for you because you needed to share this information with all of us to get that warning out, to tell people to be prepared. So I'm going to leave you with the final words of preparation, what people need to do, and again, how we can get through this on the other side.
Okay. My contact, can't mention who she is.
Absolutely. Don't see whatever you need to put out.
She told me over a year ago she had selected me to do this job amongst other people. She said to prepare for a 6-month backpacking trip. Pack essentials only. She said this is not going to be like Noah's flood. And she's been correct every single time. She's told me more and more and more. All the powers that be are already prepared for this. Get to know the retired military in your areas. This is why years ago they were taking all the guns out of their hands, because the average person doesn't know how to live in the wild like a Native American. The military are trained in what used to be called bivouacking, to live off the land. They're trained in major or just basic doctoring, medical services. They're trained to use weapons. You're not. They're trained to look for water. You're not. So get to know the military retired in your areas. If you can help them, do so, because you're going to be asking them for help when all this comes down.
Okay, Rob, really
they survive and you survive.
Okay, just so you know, we're out of time. Real quick, give your website out once again so people can get to it. So they can check out your info, brother.
Starships Around the Sun. Starships Around the Sun.
Okay, www.starshipsaroundthesun.com, right?
Right. Now click on where it says photos, and you'll see photos you've never seen. I have over 3,000 images from Soho, stereo ahead, stereo behind, SETI, which is U.S. Navy's camera,
Right.
showing all kinds of interesting stuff. And all of these images, MUFON tried to debunk.
Right. And they never will be able to.
Well, hold on. The MUFON tried to debunk them, saying it was solar this, solar that.
Right.
I went to NASA themselves, and all of the images that were being affected by solar flares hitting the cameras, you couldn't see the image. It was all whited out by little white dots. All of those images and the images I have are perfectly clear.
Right.
Even showing these massive starships coming out of warp in our system, just like Star Trek. A huge flash and then quickly decelerating.
Right.
Just like
Robert,
Trek.
I know this because, I'm a contactee myself. So I know exactly what you're talking about, my friend. I got to tell you, we're out of time. But look, if I hope I get to do this with you again, or when that baby's back due to her illness, I'd like to call back in and just chat with you some more, my friend. But this, I need to thank you for putting this information forward. Putting the heads up, hey, warning time, be alert, be ready, because things are going to get rough. It's not the end of humanity. It's not the end of humanity. It's not the end of the planet. But it's time for us to wake up, because it's all about humanity. We got to help each other. Robert, thank you so much. Thank you, my friend.
No
so
problem.
much. Please
ask
of
that baby to post a link on my Facebook page so everyone else can listen to this.
Okay, and I know she's going to do it without a question, because she's terrific. Again, I want to thank you. I want to thank for everybody listening to this emergency broadcast, basically what it comes down to, because it's crunch time. This is what Robert's saying. A lot of other people are saying it's crunch time. Be prepared. Be ready. You know what? All of us inlanders call us landlubbers. We're not going to be affected as bad, but pray for the people who are on the coastlines, because it's going to be a massive effect for them, and it's up to us to help them all out when this, when these events come to fruition. I hope they don't, but when they do, and if they do, we got to be prepared to help them. So, for me, to all of you out there, I want to say thank you for being with us. Robert, again, thank you. And have a wonderful evening. And then tomorrow night we will see you with Marshall Masters. Basically, it's going to be a follow-up conversation with Marshall Masters, because he's pretty much saying the same thing. So I look forward to speaking with all of you, Marshall and all of you tomorrow night. I hope there's lots of calls tomorrow night, so we can, bring more clarity to this subject from any information that anybody can add to the conversation. So, again, take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful evening, and I will see you tomorrow night. And, Robert, thank you once again. Take care. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.